That's what scares me. You know what? See is right at the sea. So as I told you,
There's no sleep.
you guys are life. And that's something that I know.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the March 4th meeting. Daniel, would you lead us in the pledge?
You bet. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor.
First item is a consent agenda. Consider a...
We do have ministerial lines.
I'm sorry?
Scott's here. Ministerial lines.
Oh, okay.
Scott.
See, I'm sorry. Scott? Oh.
Sorry. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for a day, even though it may be bitter cold. I just pray for those that may be stuck out there, that you will keep them warm and have somebody come and find them and take them where they can be safe. I just pray for the people in these chairs who are the servants of our community. I just pray a blessing on them and their families, and that as the issues are discussed tonight, that they will be able to not just hear, but to truly listen and understand what others are saying and to consider others better than themselves. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
And if I may, I have one quick announcement. There's a monthly food distribution at Green Tree Christian Church in the parking lot that was supposed to happen tomorrow. It has now been canceled and made. It's going to happen on March 15th instead.
Okay, thank you. First item is the consent agenda. Consider approval of the City Council minutes in closed session from February 4th and February 19th. Are there any questions on those minutes?
Move consent agenda be approved, sir.
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? There are no public hearings scheduled for tonight. We have a couple of acknowledgements and special presentations. The first is St. Pat's Celebration update. Jeff?
Jeff called and is tied up with a family situation, so I think Steve's going to do a quick presentation as to what the activities are for this upcoming week. And we've also just passed around for your information the schedule.
I'll just go over the street closings.
Steve.
Excuse me? That's for the next one.
Okay.
I'll go over the street closings real quick. The court arrival is on Wednesday, so the bandshell lot will be closed from 6 to 2. Thursday, we close a portion of the bandshell lot for the beer garden tent. And then on Friday, the upper half of the City Hall lot, as well as the beer garden tent, would be those areas will be closed for the concert on Saturday at 6 o'clock. Pine Street's closed, and the side streets. We also closed 9th Street from Pine down to Oak. Around 10 o'clock, we shut down 12th Street from Rolla to Oak, Oak Street from 12th to 8, and Rolla Street from 12th to 6th. And then, of course, right before the parade starts, we close down 6th and 10th Street. Concert starts after the parade. Should go to about 5 o'clock. They will be using City Hall for dressing rooms, and the bands are 303 and Bowling for Soup. I know nothing about either one of those. I'm beginning to show my age. I have no idea what kind of bands they are. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions anybody might have. It's pretty much the same as always.
There's no questions. Moving on. Integrated management plan.
Yeah, I handed out the management plan at the last meeting. We have the final draft. Dave Karani from HDR is here tonight, as well as Jeff Meadows. Dave's going to do a short presentation. If anybody has any questions, he'll be the one to answer them. If he can't, then I guess Jeff will. And if he can't, I'll try. So I'll let Dave just take off.
All right, thanks, Steve. So, like Steve said, my name is David Karani from HDR up in our Columbia office. I'm the project manager for this project from our side, and work closely, as Steve said, with Jeff Meadows throughout the duration of it to put this plan together. So, I know Steve has talked to you about this plan a lot over the last few years. We've been down to talk to you about it a little bit. But just as a reminder to those of you who may not remember what this is, this integrated management plan is really a long-term strategic plan to help guide your wastewater and stormwater investments over the next 20 years. And in putting this plan together, one of the things we tried to do is make sure we're focusing on the most critical issues first and making sure that we're addressing them efficiently and effectively, and also providing you with some long-term regulatory certainty so that you can implement those projects. And so, like Steve said, I'm just going to touch on some high-level points of the plan. I can try and answer any questions you have. One of the things we really hope that we can get coming out of this is your approval to move forward with DNR to finalize this plan and get an agreement put together with them to move forward. So with that, just for those of you who may not remember, what is an integrated plan? Why are we doing this? You all are familiar, more than familiar, with all of your wastewater and stormwater challenges that you're facing here in the city. Obviously, top of the list is these major treatment plant projects that you guys are moving forward with. And with that, thinking through how we maintain our existing infrastructure while we implement those projects, how we do that affordably, how we meet all of our regulatory obligations in the meantime is really hard to do for cities. And there's a lot of cities around the country that are dealing with that same thing. How do we prioritize all these needs and address them in a way that makes sense for us? And so back in 2012, EPA actually recognized that they needed to provide some flexibility to cities to be able to do that. And they put together this integrated planning framework document, and it basically laid out a 6-step process that cities could use to step back and take a more holistic look at all of their system needs, wastewater and stormwater system needs, and come up with a schedule that's prioritized and that they can implement and that works for them. And so the idea is we still need to meet all of our Clean Water Act goals. We still need to improve water quality, but we can define the schedule that we want to do that at. And so that was the goal for us in putting this plan together, is making sure that we could identify all of your particularly regulatory needs and identify the projects that are needed to address the most important needs there. And so this timeline is something that we put together at the beginning of this project. This basically outlines all of your past, present, and future regulatory drivers that could potentially impact your wastewater and stormwater system. And so in putting this plan together, we went through and tried to identify what we thought was going to be the most impactful drivers of all of those. And so the ones you see circled, I know it's hard to read, but they are all related to these wastewater treatment plant projects that you guys are already planning to do. And so we anticipate seeing improvement towards meeting these drivers by moving forward with those projects. As I said, the ultimate goal of integrated planning is to meet your regulatory drivers and improve water quality. Your plan is going to do that. Again, since most of these issues are related to the treatment plant, and we're already making those improvements, we should see some resolution to a lot of these issues. Other recommendations in the plan deal with some improvements in the stormwater system, and those should also go a long way towards helping improve some of these water quality issues that have been identified. As I mentioned, this plan is really a comprehensive plan. It's a comprehensive look at your entire wastewater and stormwater program, and so we tried to identify alternatives and projects on both the wastewater and stormwater side and each of those individual project elements that would go towards helping improve water quality and improve regulatory compliance. So on the wastewater side, obviously we got the big treatment plant projects that are programmed in. You guys are well aware of those. For the rest of the wastewater system, mostly the collection system, what we've recommended is that you just maintain your existing level of funding and your existing efforts. You guys have made a lot of improvements over the years, and we just suggest that you maintain the current level that you have there. On the stormwater side, there are some recommendations to increase some renewal efforts. So that really means replacing some stormwater pipes that are coming to be almost past their useful life before they cause failures and roads to cave in and things like that. As far as flood control, you guys are currently, I think, paying off some debts on some detention basins that you currently have, so we recommend that you just keep doing that. On the MS4 program, which is your stormwater management program that you're required to implement through your stormwater permit, we did recommend some enhancements there that really are just streamlining the current program. It's not really spending any more money. It's basically implementing that program a little bit more efficiently and effectively to make water quality improvements. And then we've identified in some of the out years some potential for some retrofits to those existing detention basins that could potentially help improve water quality. But when the time comes to do that, we'll have to take a deeper look and see exactly what those projects would entail. So as far as what the integrated plan costs, or what the costs are that it lays out, right now it's about a total of $100 million over the next 20 years. So that's in 2018 dollars. Obviously, a big chunk of that money is in your wastewater treatment plant improvements. As I mentioned, on the wastewater collection side and the stormwater side, there's not really a whole lot more money. It's mostly maintaining your existing funding. The IMP assumes that this is going to be funded through the rate increase that you all already approved. Some of the stormwater improvements will be funded through the street capital improvement funds. And then just as a means of comparison, we plotted on here your 2019 wastewater rate versus some other comparable size cities or some bigger cities that are facing some similar type issues as you. And you can see that Rolla actually is sort of in the middle of the pack, which is probably a good place to be. I'd say a lot of these cities on here are going to be looking at pretty significant increases in the next few years. So they'll be significantly higher than you all are. And so again, this is a long-term, 20-year-long plan, but what we've done is identified what we call a 5-year action plan. And the reason we did that is because the way DNR has said that they want to do this integrated planning with cities is that they like every 5 to 10 years to be able to take another look, make sure that we're implementing the projects that we say we're going to implement, making improvements, gives everybody an opportunity to reprioritize what is programmed in. And so we've developed this 5-year action plan to hopefully facilitate that effort. So this action plan really lays out the things that we are committed to do over the next 5 years. And I think we've covered most of them in the previous slides. One of the additional items that we've added to this plan is some additional monitoring and coordination with DNR to actually measure improvements in the stream so that 5 years from now we can come back and see what worked and what didn't work and figure out how to make changes. So the next step for this, again, assuming that you all approve moving forward with this plan, we've shared elements of this with DNR as we put it together. They've been in the loop as we've compiled this. They've been very supportive of it. They are working right now. I've got a draft of it, but it's not ready to share. But they're working on a letter that basically says they agree with our plan, they agree with the timeline in the plan, and that as long as we implement these projects, they're gonna use this plan to make all their permitting decisions and all their regulatory decisions going forward. So next step is to finalize this, get back with them, finalize that letter and agreement, and wrap it up, and then we can start actually implementing this thing. So with that, I'll take any questions y'all have.
I have one question, or maybe it's for Steve. In more than one section, but one in particular talks about impaired streams, that if we don't hit a certain criteria by 2024, MDNR can take action. So when we go to, whether it's the people designing or the people building, do we have clauses in there that are performance oriented? In other words, somebody's designing a system, somebody's building a system, are they on the hook to meet everything that's in this plan?
Meet someone other than us?
Everybody but us. We're spending an awful lot of money for people to design a system and build a system. So with those $27 million contracts, give or take, are there performance requirements that are going to be in there that they will be bearing the risk that we will comply with all of the technical aspects?
I mean, is the engineer indemnifying us that this will work? Is that the question?
The engineers, the equipment people, whoever, we're spending $27 million to meet all these criteria. So we're into year 3, or by 2024, whatever, oops, we don't hit something, who's on the hook?
We are.
Why?
Well, it's our wastewater plant. It's our responsibility to meet the
For $27 million, we can't push some of that risk on the people designing and building these plants?
I've not heard of anyone being able to do something like that. They're not the ones that have the permit. We are.
We're on the hook to the state, but who do we seek reimbursement from?
Well, there is no one to get reimbursement from. I mean, we either
When do you anticipate coming back or negotiating these contracts for this work?
I guess I'm not quite following what you're getting at. I mean,
There's a lot of requirements, and there's a lot at stake on us hitting one of many, many metrics in this whole area of water treatment. We're going to spend a lot of money doing that.
Right.
And somebody doesn't do their job as quite well as we thought.
I mean, we're responsible to make sure that they do their job.
Okay.
I'm not sure how we could transfer that responsibility to someone else.
So you're telling me that their design is not guaranteed?
Well, I mean, I guess we could sue them if it was a total disaster, but I mean, this has been a proactive thing between us and the state and the consultants.
It's all proactive until somebody's left holding the bag.
Yeah,
And then your
ultimately
friends are all
that's
gone.
us. We're the ultimate responsibility for meeting.
Okay. I just ask you to, Steve, when you go to contract, you push as much in there as you can from a risk perspective.
Yeah, unless they do something that's considered negligent, there would be no recourse for us. And I would not anticipate something like this. I mean, this is all pretty standard.
And that might be a question maybe
I can't imagine
from
that
HDR's
we're not.
perspective.
Yeah, I can't imagine we're buying a water treatment plant that doesn't come with performance guarantees. That's not the world that I come from, but maybe that's the case in the public sector.
From HDR's perspective, can you?
Yeah, and I might let Jeff talk more about the treatment aspects of that. But I will say with this, and I totally understand where you're coming from, but the advantage of this integrated plan is that that hammer should never come. So if there ever were a time where it looks like, okay, we're not going to meet that new standard that we thought, this gives us the coverage to, okay, well, we're going to change our plan, add some flexibility.
I'm worried about the people writing the checks.
Sure.
It's nice to say, well, okay, it didn't work out, we'll give you another 3 years, and we're still writing checks.
Mm-hmm.
That's my point. I don't want to belabor the point.
Yeah,
We'll talk about it later.
Like I said, it's a proactive process between us and the regulatory agencies and the engineers, and we all go into this agreeing that this is the best way to approach this problem.
I understand that, Steve, but the state has black and white to-dos, right? I mean, yeah, they'll work with us and so on and so forth, but you have to hit specific measures on water quality, do you not? All I'm saying
There are
is,
limits, yes.
it seems to me that somebody else that we're paying money to should be on the hook for us to be able to hit those metrics.
The only way we would be able to do that would be to hire somebody else to do the process and relinquish that to them under some sort of contractual arrangement, like a third party, like a water company or something like that would come in and run it for you. Then you might be able to mitigate some of your risk.
I won't belabor the point, but I still want to talk about it.
Correct?
Any other questions? Nothing.
Yeah, you mentioned that this covers the city's needs going forward.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that comes up somewhat regularly is us treating the needs of the surrounding communities, so outside of our city limits. And I see in the report that Rolla is in a watershed that adjoins some 270 square miles. So what I'm wondering is, does this plan address that 270 square miles, or are we just addressing the city's needs? Or can you separate them?
I mean, this plan would cover anything that would be impacted in that 270 square miles by the city's systems. If that helps. So, I mean, the treatment plants have a pretty direct impact on the streams they discharge to, so that's pretty well defined. The stormwater systems might be a little bit more far-reaching, but as long as the city is implementing their stormwater management plan, you'll have coverage there. So you're not on the hook for something that some other city, maybe in the watershed, is impacted.
Well, we get, it seems whenever we talk about the neighboring communities and their stormwater, that we are on the hook, or at least that's what we've been led to believe. If we don't take care of their problems, then that'll affect our I&I, which,
Not I&I, it's the stream quality is what it affects.
well, whatever.
Yeah.
But at some point that we need to clean it up is the impression that we're given. And that if we don't, then that's going to cause us to get a lower or worse rating from DNR or whoever, which we will then be on the hook for more expensive whatever.
Right. And, you know, where Rolla sits is actually pretty unique and interesting. You guys are at the top of all these watersheds, right? And so it's pretty easy to point back to what might be caused by the city and what might be caused by other folks. And so, I mean, I would have to look at the specific issue to see which one is getting, some other city is impacting you. I mean, we'd have to look at that.
I don't think it's a city. I mean, I'm talking about, little residential communities dotting the countryside. And so I want to make sure, or at least I'd like to know, that when we're moving forward with a plan like this, that we are either already taking that into consideration so that down the road, if we have to treat their stormwater, we're doing it, or that if it's not our responsibility, then we don't waste the money on doing that.
Okay, so
One of the things we're doing is we're working with DNR to establish a testing program to where we can actually analyze how we affect the stream that we are actually discharging into, so that we only get blamed for what we're doing. And that's part of this plan going forward, is a monitoring program that we do ourselves in conjunction with DNR and report those things to the state, so we can track how much better the streams are now or later as they are now. So that's all part of this plan.
yeah, and a great example of that. So if you look at this image right here, so Little Beaver Creek has a bacteria issue according to DNR. And when they identified that early on, they said, we're not sure why there's a bacteria issue. And without this integrated plan, they would traditionally link that back to your stormwater system without doing some of this additional monitoring and assessment that Steve's talking about. So now with this plan and that built into it, we can look and figure out, is that really coming from the city or is it not? And if it isn't, then it's not our issue to deal with.
Okay.
If that's helpful.
No, that sounds very helpful, and I think that will solve a lot of the problems that I'm referring to in the future. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to pick up on what Matthew was saying, just to clarify. I think specifically what we've been dealing with recently is neighborhoods on the edge of the city that are not in the city but are in the county, and maybe their topography makes it such that some of their topography runs into our city, and so then therefore, depending on where you test downstream, it might have gone through Rolla City property or Rolla City proper, but it started outside in Phelps County, for example, but right on the edge of us. So that's where some of the issues have come about, and that's, I think, where the question is, how do we make sure that those folks are taking care of what they are, so that we're not paying the responsibility? And it sounds like there's this testing and hopefully some other ways to make sure of that.
And that's what we intend to do from this point going forward, with an agreement with DNR that this is how we're going to benchmark these streams, and this is how we're going to benchmark our progress.
Right.
And I meant to add this before, but I never did get a chance to tell anybody. We just did our annual report to DNR in January. One of the things that a measure of how well you're doing with I&I is how many times your system pops manholes and overflows when it rains and that sort of thing. And we were happy to report this year we had 0. Of all 3 plants, we had no discharge outside of manhole anywhere in the system, which is, for a town our size, is quite a feat. So I just want to brag on ourselves.
How about EPA? I know we're doing this through DNR. Part of this whole outline was EPA's sort of encouragement at state and local to work through these plans. But do they sign off on this at all?
No, this will just be an agreement between you and the state. And actually, one of the interesting things, so, when we started this, that EPA framework was just a memo that was out there, and you all were proactive enough to follow it, and DNR is good enough to honor it. This past January, actually, there was an act that was signed. It's the Water Infrastructure Improvement Act, which actually incorporates all of these integrated planning elements into the Clean Water Act itself. And so now it's part of the Clean Water Act, and it's a regulatory tool that can be used and support decisions like we're talking about here. Who's to blame for what issues, or how to schedule consent orders or other permits or agreements. And so, I mean, it's at the federal level, it's definitely a tool that's going to be used going forward.
That's great.
Good deal.
There was a report on news tonight from the coordinator of EPA, Mr. Wheeler, and he said our biggest concern right now is drinking water. Is what we really need to be aware of more than anything else. And this green program that you're talking about says is way out in the future somewhere down the road. We shouldn't even be thinking about it, but we really need to be concerned about the affluence of our water.
And that's really not, I mean, water which obviously is RMU's responsibility, but we don't incorporate elements of the water quality, water production. Those aren't elements of our integrated management plan, are they?
Not for us.
Not for you, no. There are communities that do wrap it in, but not yours.
This water eventually ends up in people's drinking water, so it's not that, it's a closed loop. It all comes right back around again, so.
Any other questions?
So tonight, we'd like to have a motion approving our integrated management plan, and then we can go on to DNR. All we need is a motion, and then we can submit this to DNR for final disposition with the letter of understanding between the city and DNR.
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Next item, there are 9 reports from various boards and commissions. Are there any questions on those? Moving on to old business. First item is an ordinance rezoning a parcel located at the I'm sorry. Do we just want to?
Yeah. You can do that, Steve?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This actually, the rezoning of the property for Enna County has been withdrawn. So we got a letter on that, so we just bypassed that.
And we passed that letter. I think we shared that with the council, and the letter was a little vague. It talked about temporarily. I forgot the word.
Well, it said withdrawn at this time.
This time.
So we called and verified that it was taken off the table, and they are actually looking at other properties now. So.
Yeah, thank you. Next item is an ordinance approving the final plat of Cottonwood Drive.
Okay. Is this already good working, Carol? Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm old school. I do the overhead. Okay, he's working on that. Well, while he's working on it, I'll go ahead and bring you up to date. This request is to approve the final plat of Cottonwood Edition, which is a plat that through a minor subdivision process will consolidate parcels identified with Phelps County Assessor as account numbers of 10731, 10732, 10733, 10734, 10735, and part of 10725. The subject lots are owned by William, Robert, and Suzanne Stoltz. They are the applicant. Rusty Doss of the Overland Group LLC, who builds and owns buildings in which Dollar General retail stores operate, is acting as agent for the case. The subject lots are located on the northwest side of the intersection of Cottonwood Drive and South Bishop Avenue in southwestern section of Rolla, Missouri. The future address of the lot, if approved, will be 535 Cottonwood Drive. The subject lots are located within the general retail zoning district, C2. The lots that comprise of the southern portion of the consolidation area are vacant. Parcel 10725 has 3 buildings on it. One is a single-family dwelling. One is that's being used as an office, 1 garage, and 1 barn. The proposed ordinance states that the building that is located on the north boundary of Lot 1 will be demoed before we issue any permits. The Overland Group LLC has executed a purchase for sale contract with the applicant to to purchase the subject lots in order to build a Dollar General store. The consolidated lots will meet the bulk and area requirements and will have access to public right-of-way. A revised copy of the plat has been submitted and satisfies all the comments. There is to be a 10-foot utility easement proposed along the southwest and north sides of the consolidated lots. In addition, the ordinance will require the owner to obtain additional utility easements if needed to provide electric to the facility. No protest petitions or public announcements have been filed to the department, and unanimously the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended that the City Council approve the final plat, and the action required from City Council is to conduct a final reading of the ordinance that would approve the final plat of Cottonwood Addition. And I'd be happy to try to answer any questions.
Any questions for Steve?
I've got one. Just out of curiosity, will the access for this new lot be on Cottonwood or 63?
I believe the proposal is off of Cottonwood.
Any other questions? If not, the final reading?
An ordinance approving the final plat of Cottonwood Drive Addition, which is a plat that will, through the minor subdivision process, consolidate the parcels identified with the Phelps County Assessor account numbers of 10731, 10732, 10733, 10734, 10735, and part of 10725 into a 1.53 acre lot.
Move proposed ordinance pass. Second.
Motion made in second, roll call vote.
Williams,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Schott,
Yes.
Woolley,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
Crown,
Yes.
Muse,
Yes.
Roder,
Yes.
Eberly,
Yes.
Hines,
Yes.
12 A's.
Ordinance is approved. Next item is an ordinance approving the final plat of the Joyner Acres.
Yes, this is a request to approve the final plat of Joint Acres, which is currently platted as Lot 4 of the final plat of Moutray Acres. The subject lot is owned by Dr. Ginger Kohler and Paul Joyner. The agent and surveyor for this project is Christopher Ferguson. The subject lot is located north of the intersection of Thomas Drive and Tracy Dawn Drive. The address of the lot is 1335 Thomas Drive. The subject lot is within the rural residential zoning district, and it has a single-family dwelling on it. The subject lot was part of a reconfiguration back in July of 2018, which was conducted through a subdivision process. The reconfiguration of the part of the approval of the final plat of Moutray Acres. The subject lot is currently known as Lot 4 of Moutray Acres, and the applicant would like to replat the subject lot as Lot 1 of Joyner Acres, which is description similar to its owner's description, Tract A of Joyner Estates, and this will ensure the smooth conveyance of land when or if that time comes. As a replat of the rural residential zoning land being processed through a minor subdivision process with no public improvements required. No development plans are required, and much of the subdivision regulations do not apply. No parkland dedication is required because of the ordinance that was approved through Wild Horse Run, plat number 1. Included description of the subject lot, the ordinance approved that the subdivision provided private amenities in lieu of the parkland dedication. All subject regulations have been met. There were some minor revisions requested by Community Development Department and the Public Works. No more revisions are requested. And unanimously, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend that the City Council approve the final plat of Joyner Acres, and the action required from the city is to conduct a final reading of the ordinance that would approve the final plat. And I'll be happy to try to answer any questions on this one.
Any questions for Steve? If not, the final reading, please.
An ordinance approving the final plat of Joyner Acres, which is currently platted as Lot 4 of the final plat of Moutray Acres.
Move proposed ordinance pass.
Second.
Motion made in second, roll call vote.
Henry,
Yes.
Woolley,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Hines,
Yes.
Roder,
Yes.
Muse, Jones,
Yes.
Eberly,
Yes.
Crown,
Yes.
Schott,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
12 A's.
Ordinance is approved. Next item is an ordinance vacating the alley that connects Rolla Street with Houston Road.
Okay, this is a request for the city of Rolla to vacate the entire alley that connects Rolla Street and northeastern end of Houston Road. Can you guys see that? It looks like it's glaring to me. 4 separate property owners own property along this approximately 16.5-foot wide, 260-foot long stretch alley to be vacated. The city of Rolla is the applicant for the proposal. The subject alley is located in west central Rolla between Rolla Streets and northeastern end of Houston Avenue, or Houston Road, I'm sorry. The city recommends vacating the alley to facilitate the conveyance of property, and because there is no evidence that the alley was properly dedicated to the city, because it's never been understood as an official alley. All parcels along the line of this alley will have access to a street once vacated if each property obtains half of that alley. No public comments have been received, and unanimously the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended that the city approve this ordinance that will vacate the entire alley. The action required from the city is to conduct a final reading of the ordinance that would approve said alley vacation. I'll be happy to try to answer your questions.
Any questions for Steve? If not, the final reading.
An ordinance approving the vacation of the entire alley that connects Rolla Street to the northeastern end of Houston Road.
Proposed ordinance.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Muse,
Yes.
Schott,
Yes.
Young,
Yep.
Hines,
Yes.
Woolley,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
Crowell,
Yes.
Roder,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Eberly,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
12 ayes.
Ordinance is approved. The next item is an ordinance amending section 2792 of the code regarding parking on Holloway.
So staff is proposing to remove the on-street parking on Holloway Street on the west side from 14th Street to 18th Street. After the installation of sidewalk on the west side, the width of the road will make it very hard to provide on-street parking. So we're requesting a final reading of that ordinance tonight to make that change. So this time I'll answer any questions.
There is sidewalk on the east side
Correct?
right now. Yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
Any other questions? If not, the final reading.
An ordinance amending section 27-92 of the general ordinances of the city of Rolla, Missouri, known as the Code of the City of Rolla, Missouri, relating to parking.
Move proposed ordinance passed.
Second.
Second.
Motion made in second. Roll call vote.
Roder,
Yes.
Crowell,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Schott,
Yes.
Hines,
Yes.
Young,
Yep.
Woolley,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Eberly,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Muse,
Yes.
12 ayes.
Ordinance is approved. Final item under old business is an ordinance amending section 27.5 of the code regarding right turns on Strobuck.
Staff is proposing to remove the right turn only restriction at the Strobuck and South Bishop Avenue intersection. In the past, we've received several requests to take a look at that and see if we could, allow the left turns there again. In the past, we've asked council to wait till the 72 extension was open, see how that affected traffic, and then we would review at that time. After review, staff feels it was warranted to remove that right turn only restriction. So we're asking for a final reading of that ordinance tonight.
Aaron, I'm assuming it becomes effective when the sign comes down?
So the sign's down. We have some pavement markings down that would need to be removed. Just waiting for the weather to be good enough to do that.
Okay, so somebody can make left turns tomorrow?
If we're
Already making left turns down there. Work's already out. so.
Well, you better get your little police car over there.
Huh?
Get your police car over
I
there.
take mine and go down there. I'm ahead of the game.
No, all kidding aside, starting tomorrow, people can make lefts or not?
if council approves the ordinance, yes.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? David?
Just a quick one. Will there be any kind of monitoring of the intersection just if there did have some issues or an accident or anything? Do you guys have a way to kind of keep an eye on if there is an issue?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, we plan on continuing monitoring that intersection. I mean, I may be coming back to council at some point and suggesting we put some restrictions back on. But at this point, we feel it's warranted just to remove that restriction.
When you gonna take away the arrow sign down there?
as soon as the weather's good enough that I can put some black paint on the ground. So
How about some green?
if the council wants green, we can do green.
There's no other questions? Final reading, please.
An ordinance amending Section 27-5 of the General Ordinances of the City of Rolla, Missouri, known as the Code of the City of Rolla, Missouri, relating to right turns.
Move proposed ordinance pass.
Second.
Motion made in second, roll call vote.
Jones,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Hines,
Yes.
Woolley,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
Crown,
Yes.
Mush,
Yes.
Roder,
Yes.
Eberly,
Yes.
Schott,
Yes.
12 A's.
Ordinance is approved. Moving on to new business, first item is the building code effectiveness. Steve?
Thank you. As most of you probably remember, back in 2014, the building department was graded from ISO with a program they called Building Code Effectiveness Grading Schedule. We always thought that we had the worst score possible, a 10, but found out that that's not the worst score. If we don't participate at all, that's even a worse score. So basically a 10 is about the point that's ungradable. So we had nowhere to go but up. There was a couple of things that really helped our department is bringing that score up. One and mostly was the adoption of our new code. So that really helped us, but it wasn't a huge hit, and it was just a number of things that we brought up in about every category, and they really, I'd just like to point on just the three areas that we get graded in. We get graded in the administration of the codes, the plan review process, and the field inspections. As you can see on the administration of the codes, out of a possible 54 points, we got 30.39 in residential and 30.99 in commercial, where before we had 11.63 and 11.56. Going down the list, as you can see, the adopted codes, we hit about every point there possible. Adoption, additional code adoption. We took a little bit of a hit there where I don't know if you remember, where we took the AFCI breakers out of the residential. We felt that it was more of a, I don't know how I would say it. It wasn't that, it was going to be more of a hit financially to the contractors for these AFCIs, and what really, the risk wasn't really worth the reward for it. So that's why we elect to take it, and we haven't had any problems with the AFCI. So, and then going down the list, training, we can make up some points there. Training, certification, definitely we're low on certification. If you remember, we hired a new inspector this last year, which helped us in some areas of the scoring, but hurt us in others because he doesn't have any certifications. It's kind of, I don't want to sound like we've had our hands cuffed, but whenever we're on the 2000 code and they're doing certifications on 2015 and 2018, you're kind of setting up the inspector for failure if you send him off to test on the newer codes without being acclimated to that code. So now one of the things that I've really put as a point of emphasis to the department is we're going to try to get some training and get some certifications for our staff. And we've actually started doing in-house training, especially in the wintertime now. That's a little slow in the mornings. We have a little code session talk about every morning. And it's helping us out too, helping the inspectors get ready for testing if and when they go to take a test. And number two, it helps us for when we start implementing the new code. So that's one of the things we're working on. Going down the list, we didn't get any points for the zoning provisions because we have not adopted the ICZ zoning regulations or the procedures. But if you look at the public awareness programs, the participation in co-development activities, and administration policies, we hit all them, all the points available for that. So that's one of the things I was pretty proud of. And when you look at the plan review and the field inspection, 90% of the things that we hear about our department is how good we are as far as our plan review and how fast we get our permits out and how effective the inspectors are out in the field. So out of the 23 points for the plan review, the department got 20.4. And then out of the field inspection, out of 23 possible points, we got 21.75 for the commercial and 21.62. And it reflects the fact that we did buy the new computer software for our permit. We have better ways of documenting out in the field. We can turn around faster the inspection reports. We can keep track of where our inspections are at and where the permit is at. And I hate to even tell you how we used to do it. We used to just kind of really thumb through all the permits and find out which ones it's been a while since they've been active. So the new software programs really helped our efficiency as far as that goes. And I'll be happy to try to answer any questions. I'd be pulling your leg if I really told you I understood how they got all these scores. But there's so many different variables how they take all the information. I know the questionnaire that I think I filled out was 23 pages long. So.
Steve, does this rating manifest itself in any other area? Billing insurance rates or?
I actually called a couple insurance companies. I called Tony Froelich from American Family and Cansada Hines from Jinx and Long, and they both give me the same answer, that no, it does not affect insurance rates for residential.
So this is just the yardstick for our own betterment?
Yep.
And how often do they do this? Are they
every 5 years?
Come in on call?
Every 5 years.
5 years. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Look, we would be remiss by not saying very, very good job.
I guess I should tell you the scores.
I mean, we
went from a 10 to 4 in residential and from a 10 to 4 in commercial. So
yeah,
I was hoping for a 5 and would have been happy with a 6. So far I was ecstatic. So.
No, good job. Good job to the whole department.
Okay, thanks.
Next item is an ordinance authorizing me to enter into an agreement with the Missouri Department of Transportation.
Good evening. This is just a request to continue with the working with the Department of Transportation on grants for, we use them for DWI saturation patrols and for traffic enforcement. We always end up with $20,000 a year with 2 grants.
And first and final, is it just a timing issue?
No, it's we have grants that we're currently working on right now. This will be for the, for the next year.
Any questions for Chief? If not, can we have the first reading?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Rolla, Missouri to execute on behalf of the city of Rolla, Missouri, a certain agreement between the city of Rolla, Missouri and the Missouri Department of Transportation pertaining to grants.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules and have the final reading?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Final reading?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Rolla, Missouri to execute on behalf of the city of Rolla, Missouri, a certain agreement between the city of Rolla, Missouri and the Missouri Department of Transportation pertaining to grants.
Move proposed ordinance passed.
Second. Motion made and second. Roll call vote.
Woolley,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Hines,
Yes.
Young,
Yep.
Muse,
Yes.
Roder,
Yes.
Eberly,
Yes.
Crow,
Yes.
Schott,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
12 ayes.
Motion is approved. Next item is an ordinance amending sections 2798 and others of the code regarding parking. Darren?
The business owner at 1004 North Pine Street has requested changes to the 2-hour and 30-minute parking on Pine Street between 10th and 11th Streets on the east side. The business is the downtown barber shop owned by Dennis Foster. The property is actually owned by the city of Rolla. It's leased to him. Mr. Foster has requested that the parking on the east side of that block become 1-hour parking from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. except on Sundays and legal holidays. If approved, the attached ordinance would make this change. If approved, we would continue to monitor this area to see if this is something we might want to try in other areas of Pine Street. Good question? Yes.
I was just curious, one spot's going to go from 30 to 1 hour, and the other ones are going to go from 2 to 1.
Correct. The 30-minute spot was in front of Vips, and we did verify with them that they did not need it for that to be 30 minutes.
if this happened here and then went on to other spots in Pine Street, what are the advantages or disadvantages that you're hearing from?
So, well, Mr. Foster indicated his thoughts were, I mean, right now, he sees a lot of students park in front of his barber shop and walk to class because they've got 2 hours they can get there and get back. His thought was in an hour, they probably couldn't park there, get to class, and get back.
We've had concern from folks further south, sort of between 7th and 10th Street, that if we were to go to an hour parking, that they would be concerned whether that's enough time to do some shopping and
Right.
go into one of the
Right.
restaurants. That's not really an issue on the north end of Pine Street.
Right.
Okay, and so we're not necessarily taking this 1 hour and thinking in the future going south, necessarily. We're not.
Not unless we hear from
Not unless
the
we hear from, I
downtown
mean,
group.
not unless, Mr. Foster, talks to the business owners and tells them how great it is, and
Right.
they decide they want it too, so.
Have we heard from Ace Property Solutions?
I wanted to wait and get council's thoughts on it before I even talk to Mr. Marcus Kors.
I'm sorry, Nick, you referring to anybody else on that block?
Yeah, the building south.
Yep.
So,
There is a part owned by Ace Properties.
so we didn't talk to them yet?
Not yet, no, I wanted to get council's take on it before I even presented it to them.
We should have done that before we have a reading, no?
Okay?
David?
I just have one other question. Obviously, there's sometimes people use the opposite side of the street to park to go across the street. In terms of the business owners on the other side, what's the regulation now in terms of time frame? You can park on the, what would be west side of the street?
Still be 2 hours.
So it would be 2 hours, okay.
Have we contacted any of the business owners on the opposite side of the street
We
regarding
have
this?
not, no.
I think that we need to do that.
Make them
Okay.
aware at least, yeah.
Absolutely.
My guess is we're going to have maybe all of them asking for 1 hour. On this north end, I think that's going to be a concern about student parking, but certainly worth reaching out.
I was just to say, I know in that same block on the other side of the street is like a cafe. I don't know how long people stay at the cafe, for example, but that's,
Right.
as long as there's 2 hour on that side, maybe it works out, but it's probably worth asking them too, I guess, yeah.
Is there ever any thought given to metered parking?
We used to have meter parking at Helm. Pulled up probably 25 years ago, something like that. There has been some conversation, but nothing serious looked at whether that makes sense there.
Well, if the concern is that it's just students parking in it, it seems like, if they want to pay to park, why not let them?
Because you'll hear from the rest of the business people.
Yeah.
Every 3 months, we get a complaint on parking.
But if we want to discourage the students from using it, I mean, one way is to reduce the amount of time, the other is to disincentivize it by charging. And they may go somewhere else or use the university parking if they have to pay. I mean, the reason they're parking there, I was once a college student, you park where it's free. You're not going to get money and pay to park somewhere if you don't have to.
But that would be the same detractor for citizens that are coming to shop too. They would say, oh, I don't really want to have to pay on Pine Street, right? Maybe that would detract from some of the businesses.
It's probably why we got rid of the parking meters.
Right.
Plus, I think they lose money.
I mean, on this end of town, it does, or this northern part of Pine Street does make sense at the 1 hour. You can't get to class and back and still do that. So that solution does seem like it could work at least there.
Any other questions?
Have we ever thought about diagonal parking, which would increase parking spots?
I hope not.
We did.
We did think
about 2 years ago, we brought a report back as a result of
That's dangerous.
somebody asking, and it did not have much support.
From the businesses as well, right?
Right. We were able to add a lot more parking spots, but it's basically becomes a single lane road, and the fact that we don't have delivery access in the back, the delivery on either the adjoining numbered streets or on Pine makes that very difficult.
It's flat out dangerous. You're sitting in a medium-sized car next to a big-ass truck, and you have to back. You are almost all the way out before you'll see a car come up. There's no other questions? The first reading? Hold on. I think you should reach out to the downtown merchants as well.
Okay, it's like the Downtown Business Association, okay? Yep.
First reading?
An ordinance amending sections 27-98, 27-101, and 27-118 of the general ordinances of the City of Rolla, Missouri, known as the Code of the City of Rolla, Missouri, relating to parking.
Next item is a resolution authorizing me to enter into a sewer use agreement with HLG Limited Liability.
In early 2014, the city entered into an agreement with the Stately Mansion Mobile Home Park to provide sewer service. That agreement was based on some easements and some property that had purchased from the Huffmans that allowed them to hook onto our sewer system via this agreement. We just never formalized the agreement, never hooked them up. The Huffmans did pay for the pump station that services the park. When we originally done it, it was to be based on an unmetered rate for a residential unit. There's currently 42 units there. There's a maximum total of 50 units in the park. The new agreement goes from unmetered rate to a metered rate. It sets that rate. It's the same as the city residents times 1.5. They have their own service availability fee, which is based on the operations and maintenance of the pump station, which is $175 a month. The agreement does have in it that if they want to hook up more than 50 units, that this agreement would not be applicable, and they'd have to come back and renegotiate the agreement. The new rate would average about $600 a month, so it would it would actually just about have their sewer user fees, but it is based on actual measured use times 1.5 times. Their sewer bill is current as of this month. We prepared the new agreement and a resolution for the mayor to consider tonight. Be happy to try to answer any questions.
No questions? A motion to approve the resolution, or will you read the resolution, please?
Resolution authorizing the mayor of the city of Rolla, Missouri to execute on behalf of the city of Rolla, Missouri, a certain sewer use agreement between the city of Rolla, Missouri and HLG LLC.
Proposed resolution passed.
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Claims under a fiscal transaction. The first is a motion awarding a bid for a VIPS vehicle.
As many of you know, our VIPS program is a program where we have volunteers who take care of most of our non-enforcement duties. It's a great program. It literally saves the police department thousands of man-hours every year. To do this program, we currently have 4 vehicles. One of these vehicles was a highway patrol vehicle we purchased, I believe it was 2 years ago. It has about 65,000 miles on it. The other 3 vehicles we have over 100,000 miles on them. And they're literally just starting to cost more money than they're worth. What I'm asking is to be able to purchase another highway patrol vehicle. Highway patrol keeps their vehicles until they reach 50,000 miles, and at that time, they take them out of service and they sell them. They have a 2016 Dodge Charger that has about just a little over 50,000 miles on it that they're asking $15,250 for. Now, this program currently has $22,000 in donations, most of which come from the school. The school donates $6,000 a year, and we rarely spend that money. So I'm asking permission to spend $15,250 out of that fund to purchase this vehicle.
Any questions first? If not, Jimmy Dale, motion.
What?
You want to finish your motion? Because I interrupted
I
you.
move we approve.
Okay. Motion made in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
Next item is a motion awarding a bid for Project 482, streets.
We opened bids for project 482. It's 2019 Phase 2 asphalt improvements. MB West Contracting from Sullivan was rated low bid for $172,290.90. This project pays Forum Drive from 10th Street to the roundabout, and it does the intersection of Soast and Pine Tree Roads. So what we're asking for is a motion for a bid award and first reading of an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with NB West Contracting for $172,290.90.
Any questions for Darren? If not, is there a motion to award the bid to NB West?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. First reading.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Rolla, Missouri to execute on behalf of the city of Rolla, Missouri, a certain agreement between the city of Rolla, Missouri and NB West Contracting Company for 2019 Phase 2 asphalt improvements, project number 482.
Next item is an ordinance authorizing a grant award with SEMA.
In December 2018, we were notified by SEMA that we were eligible to receive a grant for storm sirens. Brad Woods, our EMD for the city of Rallo, attended a meeting, and they had some funds that they wanted to spend relatively quickly, and they were looking to invest that in storm sirens throughout the state of Missouri. As a process of that, we applied for that grant as a one-time application. In this opportunity, you could apply up to $30,000. Couldn't apply for anything over that. And it didn't require any matching funds. We happened to have one of those projects in hand and had a quick turnaround promise on that. And because it was an unfunded project in the 2018-2019 budget. So because of that, we had this project in hand and ready to go. It just didn't receive funding in the last year's budget. So we applied for a grant in February. We were notified that we could receive the $30,000 in total. We had applied for $31,568, I believe, which is, we'll talk about that in the next process. Fire Administration is asking for an ordinance, first and final reading tonight. Due to a time issue of June 1, we need to have the project complete, product in hand, operational, and paid for by June 1st. We're asking for first and final reading tonight of an ordinance for the mayor to execute the grant agreement with SEMA.
Any questions for Chief?
Yes, sir.
Are we putting up a new siren, or are we replacing an existing siren?
We are replacing 2 sirens.
So we're going to take down 2 and put up 1 to replace them?
That's correct. This siren has the capability to perform better. The sirens that we are replacing are 25, 30 years old. So their capabilities have improved tremendously, and we're able to replace 2 sirens. And I can show you a little bit better of an example of that. This is all out Vichy Road. So as you see where my finger points to that X is a siren currently at Investment Realty, right behind Investment Realty. And then down in the hole is near Whitson Trailer Park, the old Whitson Trailer Park, just behind, that's all I know it at is Whitson.
Yeah.
Well, this one's actually at the top of the hill. In Whitson, outside the city limits of Raleigh. And that's a very, very small siren. As you see the extent of its coverage, it doesn't cover very much more than the Valley High Trailer Park, the Whitson Trailer Park area. North Villa, I believe, is another name for one of the trailer parks there. And so it just covers a very small area, and that siren is really old. Mm-hmm. And have no parts available for it whatsoever. So it will replace those 2 sirens, the green one and the pink one. And then the purple one there to the north of it will be where the replacement is going. And it will cover all the way back to this intersection here, which is past St. Pat's Lane. So to give you coverage without losing any coverage. Matter of fact, we're gaining coverage by going out and covering Highway E. So this current system does not cover Highway E at all, and we're gaining coverage for Missouri S&T students going out that Highway E area, just past the Highway Patrol Station. We've got a lot of students out in that area now. So this siren will pick up that area. Make sense?
Chief, when you say that these have so many more capability. So I don't know anything about these sirens. To me, it either blows or it doesn't blow.
Correct.
What makes the difference between one level of capabilities and another level of capabilities?
So you're buying decimals. Decimal accounts to how much you could hear. You're also lifting, in this case, we're lifting the siren up an additional 10 feet, buying an extended pole. So we're increasing that from a 50-foot pole to a 60-foot pole. So that changes our height. It also changes our tree level. We're above the tree level and gets us out. So the technology has also changed on the other side of that, which allows not only for sound, but us to talk to that siren from dispatch center and know whether that siren activated or not. So that technology has changed as well. One thing that was online that was a question that was asked was, can you talk through that siren? Some technology now today allows you to talk to the citizen. For example, if you put one of these at the ball field and you had a storm coming in, you could announce to the ball fields that you had an event happening, storm event happening, and you could tell them where to go and what was happening within the community. So you could direct them and give them directions. This siren does not have that technology, but you can buy it. It's very, very pricey for that part. In this case, this one, all it does is transmit a signal and has a higher decimal level and rotates around and tells community with this activation to seek shelter.
And currently, when we're doing our testing, we have to have people remotely out to verify
That's correct.
the validity of those as they're triggered, so.
So we have to have 10 people every month on every test day. So that takes up our police department, fire department, and EMD director to go out.
Is this the only one of the 10 that you will know that?
It's not. So with this, so we had a $30,000 agreement. We didn't want to just buy a siren for $25,000 and leave $5,000 on the table. So we bought 2 communication systems for 2 additional sirens, so that now we'll have 3 that we can remote access and know whether they sounded or not. It's called secondary circuit. So they have a secondary circuit, the ability to tell you whether that siren activated or not, whether it rotated and sounded its signal. With that, then we eliminate this siren and 2 additional ones from having to be monitored on test day and or that night of the event. You want to make sure your storm siren.
Yeah, that's great, thank you.
Can we sell ad time over them to help pay for them?
That would be great, wouldn't it?
So I've got a question, Chief. How confident are you that you can have it all in hand by June 1st?
Very, 100%.
Do you have people like standing by tonight
do.
to start?
We talked today. And they are very, of course, they're very excited. This is a sole source. We have one company that does all of our, Federal Signal does all of our work. And Federal Signal through Blue Valley of Kansas City. So all of our sirens in Rolla are Federal Signal. So that's sole source, sole repair as well through Blue Valley. So they do all of our maintenance as well. So we spoke to them this morning. They were here in the area. They actually put this project together for us. And then today they're very excited. Of course, there's other projects that they've been awarded through the SEMA grant. So by being one of the first in line by tonight's meeting, we'll be able to be at the front of the line. But we'll get the project done.
Okay. And do you ever ask for volunteers for the siren checking?
I'm sure VIPS does help us out. We have of course the fire station is pretty easy. There's one at the fire station too. That one's pretty easy to cover. But VIPS I'm sure helps us. But no, I don't think there's volunteers besides City of Rallo people.
Sounds like you got one.
I'm on the south side of town.
Any other questions?
I just want to make a comment that thanks for your efforts in kind of digging deep for these grants and seeing what's out there. Certainly handy to be able to fund some things we wouldn't otherwise by investigating these grants and stuff. So thanks for your work.
Thank you.
Can we have the first reading?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Rolla, Missouri to execute on behalf of the city of Rolla, Missouri, a certain agreement between the city of Rolla, Missouri and the Missouri State Emergency Management Agency to purchase an outdoor storm siren.
Move to suspend the rules and have final reading.
Second.
Motion made and second for the suspend the rules. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Final reading, please.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Rolla, Missouri to execute on behalf of the city of Rolla, Missouri, certain agreement between the city of Rolla, Missouri and the Missouri State Emergency Management Agency to purchase an outdoor storm siren.
Move resolution. Ordinance passed.
Second. Motion made and second. Roll call vote.
Crown,
Yes.
Schott,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Hines,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Murphy. Murphy,
Oh, Murphy, yes, I'm sorry.
Henry,
Yes.
Williams,
Give me do.
Williams. Say yes.
Yes.
Mish,
Yes.
Roder,
Yes.
Everly,
Yes.
Woolley,
Yes.
12 ayes.
Ordinance is approved. Next item is a resolution authorizing me to execute a purchase from Blue Valley Public Safety.
On this resolution, and that's an error on my part, Mayor, is it should be with Federal Signal Storm Siren Company instead of Blue Valley. That's an error on my part. Blue Valley does all of our maintenance work. They're a contracted laborer through Federal Signal, and so we'll need the resolution and the motion to reflect that the contract is with Federal Signal. And again, the city of Rallo has 10 storm sirens. Those storm sirens protect the city of Rallo, as you can see on this map. We're well protected within the inner part of our city. We also have north, the industrial park out at B Highway protected as well. This will eliminate 2 sirens, one at Investment Realty, which is, this is what they look like. And that one's about 25 years old. This map, then this one is the one that's in Whitson. Not very high off the ground in a very old style. It's very specific design just for that area, just to give a little extra protection for that trailer park area and student area, so they know to seek shelter. By the replacement of this, the proposed site is here at the end of Brook Drive. We'll have to install a pole there, and you wouldn't believe the work it takes to install a telephone pole through the federal government. It's a 12-page document to install one telephone pole. We'll be removing this siren and this siren at Investment Realty. The circle, as you can see, does not show the siren number 5, which really picks up this area here that's a dead, looks like a dead man zone, looks like an area that's not covered. Siren 5 actually picks that up. So we'll not be losing any area by installing the siren at the end of Brook Drive. We asked for the complete amount of $30,000 in the project, and we're awarded that. And our total bid for a project which will install 1 new siren and 2 controllers, which will allow communications through that system, is $31,586.34 through Federal Signal.
Any questions for Chief? If not, is there a motion for the resolution? Oh, I'm sorry, read the resolution, please.
A resolution authorizing the purchase of a Federal Signal 2001-130 storm siren and communications equipment through Federal Signal Safety Corporation.
Move resolution passed.
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Chief, real quickly, how many, we've been trying to replace 1 a year, and often the budget doesn't allow us, and this was the example. So we had this budgeted, we had to pull it out. How close are we to getting them all updated?
We're 4 short.
Okay. We've got 4 more to go over the next few years.
Correct. So we'll continue. We'll continue to seek budget funding, and as grant. This was a once in a.
Yeah, none of the other ones have qualified for a grant. So
I suspect that this grant won't be available next year. I suspect, but if it opens up, right now we're tied within our EMPG funds, which is a emergency program funds for our EMD director. We're tied that we can't apply for that much money. We never can apply for the amount of money of what a siren would cost. They limit us to what grant application can cover. We apply for an EMP grant every year and receive $3,000 to $5,000.
Yeah.
but never enough to replace the siren. But we have 4 more to go to replace the 25 to 30-year-old sirens that we have on place. One at 2 of the most familiar ones that you're aware of are at Bueller Park. It's an old siren, and that one's had repair and on its dying breath. And then the other one is at 10th Street in Ann. And that one has been in good shape so far. So we'll hold our breath, but there are no parts available new for us to replace those. Those are all
Chief, why are these sole sourced?
Because that's the company we use for our service and who services the federal signal. You could switch. You could switch to another company. They're of equal value and of equal price.
So they're sole sourced by design, by our design.
Correct.
You don't want multiple brands.
Correct. We would have double the fee.
Yeah. And
so in this case, we save substantial amount of money when they are all coming to work on all 10 in a 2-day process. They come spend the night, work on all 10, and then go home. Several $1,000s worth of expense. There's no one close. That's the issue for us, is they're all in the city, Oklahoma area that are providing service for this. So there's no one close to receive service from. So we get one vendor can do them all. And we have a maintenance agreement with Blue Valley.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all.
Ron, Bruno. Just want to say good job. Thank you guys for a good job working with Vichy Fire Department and getting their ISO rating down. Good article in the paper tonight. And tell the guys good job. Appreciate it.
I'll do that. Extend it to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Citizen communication. Is there any citizen who wants to speak to council? Mayor, City Council comments. I have one, John, a question. I've had a couple of complaints, if you will, regarding snow and ice on sidewalks downtown. And in particular, there was one that was in front of businesses and 2 that were on a numbered street, and that numbered street didn't have a business facing it, so it didn't get addressed. My understanding, it's the business or the owner of the property that has to take care of their sidewalks.
It's the adjacent property owner who has responsibility of maintaining sidewalks.
So the building owner.
Building owner.
And what's a reasonable period of time? How do we enforce reasonableness? Is 4 days reasonable? Is 4 hours reasonable?
Yeah, John, you sent me the same kind of emails about the university. So there is no real standard for that. We have a generic ordinance based on a statutory authority that says you can declare that adjacent property owner is responsible for the maintenance of all the sidewalks over the city. It says that there is no time limit in either our ordinance or in the law as to what's reasonable. We're not aware of any city that actually enforces that, because you'd be citing virtually all properties. And so I think the question John had for me was, can we just sort of focus on the downtown area of people walking to school? And unfortunately, the law is going to say if you're going to enforce a mechanism like this, cleaning of sidewalks, you're going to have to do that system-wide. So,
yeah, I was a little surprised at the number of days that went by in this particular case that the sidewalk wasn't cleaned.
Yeah, so there is no number. A lot of cities will say within 24 hours after the end of a storm, but they don't have any enforcement backup on the backside of it. So it becomes almost a community standard that you're trying to set than a law that you're adopting for enforcement mechanism, if that makes sense.
So is it like some of our other codes are sort of complaint driven? So if somebody wants to call City Hall, register a complaint, we would send Kathleen out, or?
I don't know that we would issue a citation for not removing snow.
I didn't say a citation, but maybe a friendly knock on the door.
Yeah, that we can certainly do.
Okay.
Unfortunately, by the time that happens, it's usually in Missouri at least. It's warmed up 2 days later and it's gone. But
yeah, this was at least 4 days, and it was.
Yeah, if there's complaints, we're happy to pass it on and inform them about their responsibility. It's just the mechanism of enforcement that becomes the problem.
Jimmy Dale?
I got 2, but I got a little smart aleck report because you can't walk on ice.
That's exactly the point.
Is there any liability on the property owners?
There is.
If someone injures themselves on their icy sidewalk?
For sure. So the question was, where's the liability lay? Liability clearly lays with the adjacent property owner.
Okay.
And, so if they aren't removing debris, snow, ice, and doing it reasonably and safely, they are incurring a liability for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Is there some way that maybe through the Chamber of Commerce or the Downtown Business Owners group that we could remind folks at the beginning of each winter season that is their responsibility?
Yeah.
I mean, that.
Yeah, we do have it on our snow removal Facebook page under Public Works, and it spells it out. In fact, it even identifies if you're not able to do it, here's some private contractors that will do it, so we provide that information. But you're absolutely right. That would be a good thing to do at the beginning of each season is a consistent reminder of that.
Jimmy Dale?
Just want to remind everybody that we have some awful nice assisted living places here in town. I've been to Oak Point, Parkside, Silverstone, Rolla Manor, which is doing remodeling, and rehab place on McCussion. It's been remodeled. They're all very nice, and I talked to a couple of the guys that represent these places, and they've invited all of you to stop in and take a look. Very impressed with the Oak Point and Parkside and Silverstone. They really outstanding places. And, you get a chance to stop in, and they'll take you through the place.
Any other council comments or comments for the good of the order?
I got one. We had an incident on Pine Street this week with a shoplifter that turned into a physical altercation, and it could have gotten a lot worse had Chief Fagan's team not showed up and de-escalated the situation for us. And I just wanted to say thank you and extend that to your team for us, that thanks to you guys, we had a safer night than we probably could have if you guys would have been 20 seconds later. We appreciate you guys.
There's no other comments. There are no closed session topics scheduled tonight, so meeting adjourned.
Unbelievable.